Ahmad quickly made up his mind. He would move everyone to the center of the mosque, away from all the doors and windows. Asked everyone to keep praying and stay calm. During the chaos, a little boy started to cry. His mother tried to comfort him, but his sobs made it impossible. Even more people are scared. Ahmad walked up to the child, patted him on the head softly, and told him, "Don't be afraid, little one, we will be safe. Allah is watching over us." Suddenly, a volunteer yelled from outside, "Fire trucks have arrived! They're starting to put out the fire!" Everyone in the mosque ran out of the building. A small cheer went up. Things were still not safe, but Ahmad knew the fight wasn't over, so he chose to do something that would surprise everyone again. Taking everyone by surprise, he left the mosque and stood in the yard, where the sky was burning red from the fire. He then began to call out the adhan more loudly than before. Before the sound broke through the night, clearing the smoke and heat and giving everyone who heard it a new sense of hope, a firefighter was coming up to the mosque area. Even stopped to look at Ahmad for a moment, amazed that this man was not scared. He whispered that the adhan had become a sign of unshakable faith and strength. Even if there was a disaster, Ahmad's Jan was a call to worship and a call to stay alive that night for many. When Ahmad ended the second adhan, out of the blue, the wind that had been pushing the flames closer suddenly changed direction. The fire that had been a threat to the mosque started to move backwards, as if pushed away by an unknown force. The wind changed, and one of the firefighters yelled, "Fires that were almost at the walls of the mosque but were now facing away." This gave the fire crews more time to get control of the situation inside the mosque. The mood changed from fear to relief, and people started crying not out of sadness, but out of immense thanks. Some of them were non-Muslim residents. As dawn started to rise, everyone joined in a prayer led by Ahad. The sounds of takbir prayer filled the room, crossing religious and spiritual lines. Put out the fire. The firefighters were finally able to put out the fire fully, but many people were amazed by the building around the mosque. Rubble was all that was left, but Mid al-Haya stood tall with only a few black marks on its walls. "How is this possible?" asked Carla, the first woman. One of the mosque's volunteers, an old man called Pak Usman, who had felt something special about the place from the start, replied with tears in his eyes. "Surely protects his house and everyone who seeks safety inside it." The miracle at Masjid al-Hidayah quickly became known all over the city, and local news outlets covered it. The story about Ahmad and the Muslim community, who let anyone into their mosque, no matter who they were or what they did. People who didn't know much about Islam about the mosque before now came to pay their respects and show their thanks. One of the non-Muslim survivors, Rachel, spoke to reporters, "I only came to this mosque to find safety, but I found more than that. I found hope, courage, and love that goes beyond religion." Hassan, who had become the center of interest, stayed humble. He told the reporters, "This is not about me. It's about how people help each other in times of... For me, the Adhan is a call to come together and remember that there is a power bigger than all of us." Maid al-Hidayah, which was once known only to a small town, had become a symbol of hope, courage, and hope in Los Angeles. People of all religions came to visit with flowers, food, or just words of support. To pray alone, a famous architect was touched by the story and offered to fix up the mosque for free a few weeks later. On a quiet night, Ahmad stood up again. This time it was stronger and more beautiful without changing how simple it was. In the yard of the mosque, looking up at the sky now full of stars, he thought of that at night. His adhan stood up to the fire, and how Allah had shown his strength in the worst times. The number of times Allah Akbar he whispered, "Allah is the best." Hello, all of you Muslim friends out there. It was a calm night in Los Angeles when something terrible happened. The sky, which had been dark, was now filled with stars turned bright red from flames that couldn't be put out. A wildfire pushed by Santa Ana winds quickly spread into neighborhoods, causing waves of alarm fire truck. In the middle of all the noise and chaos, a small mosque called Masjid al-Haya stood still on the edge of an area for living. Most of the time, the mosque was empty, except for a few committed worshippers. But that night, Ahmad, a 27-year-old muezzin, was there. Prayer reading. When he looked around after the Isa prayer, he saw something strange. The air was getting hotter, and there was a smell of smoke coming from the mosque fire. A man running past the mosque yelled, "Wildfire!" After Ahmad and the other worshippers quickly went outside, they saw a terrible sight. Huge flames were. Several houses were on fire in the distance, and the wind was quickly pushing the fire toward the mosque. Despite the chaos, Ahmad stayed calm and said, "We must remain." He spoke in a strong but gentle voice and told the worshippers to go back inside the mosque while he tried to figure out what was going on. In a matter of minutes, the mosque started to fill with scared people, some of whom were not Muslim. "Can we take shelter here?" asked an elderly woman desperately holding on to her scared grandchild. "Of course. Everyone is welcome." Ahmad said right away that he knew this mosque was more than just a place of worship, but also a safe place for anyone who needs refuge. The fire moved faster than planned because the wind got stronger. Ahmad looked at the Qibla in the mosque. He gave it a lot of thought. The mosque didn't have any high-tech safety systems. It was just a simple building with old stone walls. But there was one thing he could do to make things calm down. In the middle of the chaos, as the stress rose, people started to cry. It was Ahmad who stood in front of the mosque's microphone and told them, "We will be safe." He knew in his heart that time was running out, so he bowed his head, took a deep breath, and chose to do something he had never thought he would do in such a dangerous scenario. The raging winds and crackling flames in the distance were cut off by the soft sound of the adhan. For a moment, the tense night went silent. Even though the call to prayer could be heard outside the mosque, the flames were getting closer and the winds bringing dust and ash were getting stronger. The sound of the adhan brought a different kind of calm in the middle of the chaos. People who were taking refuge in the mosque started to say some people who were scared before were now leaning against the walls and looking at Ahmad with hope in their eyes. One of them was an old non-Muslim man. He was shaking as he hugged his small dog. "What is he doing?" he asked a young worker. "He's calling us to pray." This was the call to Allah during the month of Ramadan. Man answered with a small smile. Muslims kept listening to Ahmad's adhan through the mosque speakers, which was louder than the fire outside. The firefighters came in and even stopped for a moment. One of them, Carla, later said she felt weird when she heard the call. "I don't know, I didn't know what it was. But I felt calm even though I knew I was in the worst place in the world," she said in an interview after Ammar finished the adhan. He looked at the people around him. Faces that had been scared before started to show signs of hope, even though the fire was still going strong. Drew closer to my brothers, and a sister Ahmad's voice was firm but gentle. "Fire may be all around us, but Allah is with us. We must work together and help each other, no matter what faith we follow. Our one family." His words seemed to give people a new sense of energy. Volunteers from the Muslim community jumped right into action, getting buckets to fill with. The small tank inside the mosque was trying to wet the outside walls to slow the attackers down. Flames, while others gave out blankets and masks they had found in the stores for mosques. The situation got worse, though, and the fire could now be seen from the windows of the mosque how hot or cold it is. Some people began to cough from the smoke that had made its way inside, including Rose. "What should we do?" "The fire is too," a young man cried close by.